Listen, if you're a brand, get out of here. Welcome to my channel. Today I have a different kind of video. I'm going to be going over the community's responses to the Single Shadows tag by my dear friend Cassie, aka A Makeup Journey on Instagram. Cassie created this tag somewhat recently, which consisted of 10 questions. I'll go over them shortly. And a lot of people in the community responded to it. Cassie and I are both data nerds. Personally, my day-to-day 9-to-5 job involves taking a large set of data and extracting useful information and analyzing it. Obviously, that translates into my hobbies as well. Cassie is also a huge nerd. That's why we get along so well. We talk every single day. So I'm gonna put up this quick little video Cassie made first.
Hey everyone, it's Cassie, also known as A Makeup Journey. I thought I'd do this quick video to basically explain why Riley, not myself, is presenting the findings from the Single Shadows tag. The first thing was that when I was going through the spreadsheet, I found lots of facts and figures, and I started thinking about the best way to present it. I started thinking about Instagram posts or reels. But the more I thought about it, the more I felt like an in-depth explanation was best, and a YouTube channel was best for that. I don't have a YouTube channel, so I'm happy to give it to Riley. Another point is that it was you guys that submitted your answers to the tag, so I don't feel like, even though I created the tag, that it's my tag, because a tag without people responding to it is just a post. So I'm not wedded to it. I don't feel like it's necessarily my content, and therefore I'm happy to give it to Riley so it can be presented in the best way. Another thing is that I don't have a very big singles collection, whereas Riley has a much bigger singles collection. So I felt that Riley would be best, because her singles collection is so much bigger than mine, to be able to actually showcase some of the shadows that we talk about as part of the tag. I hope you enjoy, and subscribe to Riley if you've not done so already. Bye.
Okay, so now that you've seen that, I'm going to start by telling you what the 10 questions were, and I'm going to put up some of the information on the screen before I get into the portion where I talk about the responses to each question. Your current favorite single shadow, your previous favorite before that, your favorite one and done shadow, a single shadow not worth the hype, a single shadow you think is underrated, a single shadow not worth the hype, a single shadow that best represents your favorite singles brand, a single shadow you grew to like, a single shadow you would give to your worst enemy, a single shadow you would pay double for, and a single shadow that best represents you. So I put up some of the data that Cassie compiled based on the responses, and now I'm using my own single selection. I pulled all the shadows that were mentioned, as I said, and I'm gonna swatch them while I talk about them to kind of add a little bit of visual interest to this. For your current favorite single shadow, only 2 eyeshadows were mentioned more than once, and they were both from my collab! Can you believe it? They were both from my collab with Shine by SC Cosmetics, the Earthborn collection. The first one was Ice Blank, and I think I'm gonna show you them, and then while I talk about the rest of the stuff, I'll do swatches of them. And the second one was Verdigris. Oh my gosh, you guys, thank you so much for the support. I could not be happier with the response that we've been getting to the collab. Anyway, not to make this about me. So interestingly, Shine by SC was the most popular brand of choice for this category, with 10 out of 37, aka 27% of responses being a shadow from Shine by SD. This is interesting because the social media following of Shine by SD is a lot smaller, relatively speaking, compared to a lot of the other brands that are in the indie realm and sell single shadows. The second and third most frequently mentioned brands are Terra Moons and Clionadh, which have a substantially larger social media following. So it's just interesting, and I think it does speak to the quality. But you guys know I'm extremely biased towards Shine by SD, so I'm not surprised to see that they are so well loved in the community. So Ice Blank was the most mentioned shade. I mean, one of those mentions was me, so. And the other shade that was mentioned more than once is Verdigris for the current favorite single shadow. So I'm going to swatch that right here. And Verdigris is just my heart and soul in an eyeshadow. I'm sorry for sounding like a broken record, but I am just I'm not going to cry. So happy with the response that this collab has been getting. Thank you so much. I'm definitely not crying. There's Verdigris. Let's go to the next question. Okay, the next question is your previous favorite single shadow before that. So Shine by SC was only mentioned 3 times in this question compared to being mentioned 10 times for question 1, your current favorite. Previously, people loved Terra Moons, with 11 out of 38 responses being a Terra Moon shade. And also 8 out of 38 or 21% were Clionadh. So the only shadow that was mentioned more than once is Red Giant from Terra Moons. And if you watch Millie's video, you know she said the iconic line that she put that shit on everything. And as you can see, I have also gotten so much love out of Red Giant. So this is just like the quintessential red to orange to gold iridescent eyeshadow. So shiny, so reflective, so vibrant. It really is iconic. So Cassie also combined the responses from questions 1 and 2 to see like overall what people's favorites were. A couple other shades that were brought up more than once were Phoenix from Terra Moons, Space Case from Terra Moons. So I'm going to show you these. So this is Phoenix, which is a very high impact orange iridescent multichrome. And then here is Space Case from Terra Moons. This is one of their more quote-unquote wearable gray-based multichromes that shifts from like a greenish gold to teal to blue to purple. So overall, between the two questions 1 and 2, Terra Moons was mentioned the most. And Cassie also mentioned that when people were providing context about their choices, the most common keywords were versatile, sparkly, and shifty. I probably used all 3 of them because I just can go on and on for days about eyeshadow. So this is interesting because it reflects how despite liking the pictures of the colorful and rainbow shifty shadows online, in reality people gravitate towards things that they can use more every day. Which tends to be my case, and kind of like the MO of my collab with Shine by SD. Like, while they're not the most insane, like, textured, high-impact shades, they're ones I wanted to have people go back to time and time again and rely on for, like, you know, like the sweatpants of multichromes. But anyway, here's Phoenix right here, and Space Case here. This is definitely one of the most wearable multichromes that exists. Very shifty, but it still can be, it has like a groundedness to it in that it's not super colorful. The main source of color you get is from those shifts when you go from an angle, but from straight on it's more of like a subdued goldish green, which is still colorful by some standards. But I mean, when you think about like the indie world of single shadows, there are so many like rainbow intense shifting shades. So here's Space Case. As you can see, these are both some of my most used eyeshadows. Favorite one and done single shadow. Clionadh won in this category with 10 out of 42 or 24% of responses. Terra Moons followed closely with 9 out of 42 or 21%. ColourPop actually ended up have positive responses in this question, with their Super Shock shadows making 4 out of 42 or 10% of responses. So the only ones I had from this are my trusty, tried and true Tom Back from Glam Shop. This was definitely my response for this question, favorite one and done. And then Veil Nebula was another one that was mentioned more than once from Terra Moons. This is another very grounded but colorful in the shifts type shade. It has this like very like muted plummy base. It almost reads as like a warm brown, and then it shifts from gold, green, teal, purple. Cassie mentioned this kind of echoes her point from before, that the shades people are reaching for on a day-to-day basis are not necessarily like the insane textured high impact shades, but rather they're the shades that have a little bit of ease of use and approachability to them. Responders mention blendability as one of the key factors in making this decision. Other common keywords were wearable and sparkly. A few responses mention user-friendly and versatile in their responses as well. Here is Veil Nebula. As you can see, it does have that like neutrality to it in a way for a multi-chromatic eyeshadow, but then you get that hint of color in the shifts from the angle when it hits a light. Okay, next for question 4, a single shadow that you think is underrated. Not a single shadow appeared more than once in this category. Cassie said, I think this speaks more to how in order to establish that a shadow is underrated, you have to have used it enough time to build up an understanding of it and then match that with how it's perceived online. That's a really good point, Cassie. The 2 commonly most mentioned brands were Clionadh, which I have 2 shades from here, and Shine by SD. So these are the shades I have that were mentioned. The first is Clionadh Glazed. In this, I know I have mentioned before, it's this like beautiful, almost lilac cool tone that shifts from pink to gold. Absolutely like a soft pastel dream. I mentioned this in my favorite multi-chromes for spring, but honestly, I use it like year round. Definitely, I agree it's underrated. I don't see too many people talking about it. And the next one, that I have is Clionadh Royalty. I'm surprised that this was nominated as an underrated shade because I feel like this is one of the most, at least before the expansion, this was one of the most hyped up and talked about shades from the stained glass collection. This is like a grape purple base and it shifts from gold, green, teal back into that purple. Definitely like a beautiful dragon scale effect. Next for Shine by SD, we have Alpenglow from my collab. Thank you so much. This one is slept on, to be honest with you. And I think because it has that semi-sheer base to it, I know people say like opaque as a positive word, but that kind of intimidates me. I like something that can be layered, used as a topper or a sheer wash. So this is like a very sheer pastel periwinkle base. It shifts pink, gold, green, teal from a harsh angle. Let's see if we can get it on camera. You mostly see the gold and green. This is like, if you're familiar with the shade Revenge from Shine by SD, this is like the more sheer pastel version of that. I've seen from people with varying skin tones that this makes a great face highlighter. It does work for me when it's like really sheared out, but I have a pasty complexion, so I hesitate to say if it would work for everyone. I have seen people with deeper complexions use it as a highlight and it looks incredible. So if you have Alpenglow, consider using it as a highlight. And then next is Flirtatious from Shine by SD. This is definitely more high impact. Shine by SD just does the best purples, to be honest with you. And it's like a very warm purple, shifts to gold. It shifts like pink, gold, green. Again, it has this rainbow dragon scale effect. As you can see, it's a lot more vibrant than Alpenglow. They have different intentions and different effects. I agree. I don't see too many people mentioning this. As you can see, mine is very well loved. I truly adore this shade. I haven't worn it too much recently because I don't want to fully pan it, which is kind of like silly logic, but truly a beautiful shade. If you're looking for a purple multichrome, definitely check out Shine by SD. Also interesting, all the ones I have that were mentioned for underrated are kind of like in the same color scheme, from like periwinkle to warm purple. Okay, so next is a single shadow not worth the hype. The top 3 most commonly mentioned brands were Clionadh, Terra Moons, and Touch of Glam in that order. For specific shades, I don't have too many of them. I'm going to put up on the screen with the other ones, but I'm going to state that Glass Bull from ColourPop was mentioned 3 times, and Cassie put, yikes! No other shadow was mentioned more than once in this category. However, some shadows that were mentioned in this category also appeared in positive categories, so they were polarizing shades. So let's go over the ones that I have that were in this category. 2 from Clionadh. I know that generally the jeweled multichromes from Clionadh were mentioned by a few people. Like I personally mentioned that, and I definitely saw at least one other person, but there are so many, so it makes sense they were all included. So the first one, this is going to be a spicy take. Mural from Clionadh. This is like probably the most iconic shade from the stained glass expansion. It's that teal with that insane spicy orange to gold to green shift. It is just took the indie world by storm when it was released, and it's one of the most coveted and sought after shades, I really think. So I guess someone did not agree. I did a video where I was like trying to see if I could recreate the same effect as Mural using other singles in my collection. Definitely check that out if you're a nerd like me. I can see why someone might not think this is worth the hype. I mean, it is like people are going gaga over this, and I fell for the hype. I bought it and I love it and I use it. But I could recreate a very similar effect with other shades in my collection. So for the ones I have, it seems like it really just comes down to a matter of opinion, because I don't think any of these are bad quality. It just seems to be like personal preference. The next one is Bloodline from Clionadh. This is another like very iconic, probably the most sought after from the original stained glass collection. Has that like very burgundy base, and it shifts gold, green, teal, blue. Next one, I can't believe someone would dare to say this, is M51 from Terra Moons. If you know me, you know this is one of my absolute favorite eyeshadows ever. I'm always singing the praises of this, so I can't believe someone didn't like it. Sorry, that's like a pathetic swatch, but I'm trying to salvage this. This is similar to Space Case in that it's like a grounded multichrome that has a gray base, and it shifts from like gold to blue to purple to pink. I don't have enough positive things to say about this eyeshadow. I freaking love it, and I wear it all the time. Look at the amount of pan I have. Like, I freaking love this shade. I use it so often. But, I don't know, maybe if you were expecting something more vibrant or colorful, it may not be for you. Red Giant was mentioned once again. I won't swatch it again because you saw my swatch earlier. And then the next two, I'm going to swatch them together because I think they are pretty similar. The Cosmos from Terra Moons. I cannot believe someone said this. And Stellar Apotheosis from Terra Moons. These both have very similar vibes. Cosmos is cooler tone. Stellar Apotheosis is warmer tone. They both have that flaky formula that smooths out. However, if you're not into flaky shades, I can see why you may not enjoy either of these. Or maybe you just simply think they're overhyped. I think they're adequately hyped personally. I love the Cosmos. I think it really has stood the test of time and set the tone for like all the future releases that Terra Moons did after they came out with this. Another one is from the Moonscapes collection from Davina is Pink Flare, which I don't have, but I have this one, Fire Hunt. And all the shades in this Moonscapes collection are like the same thing with different bases, and they have these like silver sparkles. So here it is. This formula I thought I would really love. It's not my favorite personally. I don't know. It's a little bit too chunky and doesn't smooth out as easily as I would like. But here it is. Pink Hunt is just like a more pink version of this. Common rationale for why people said their shadow of choice was not worth the hype, in order of most mention, is not unique, flaky, doesn't suit their taste, creases, and dull. A single shadow that best represents your favorite singles brand. Terra Moons was the most frequently mentioned with 33% of responses, and then followed by Clionadh and Shine by SD. Shadows that were mentioned more than once were the Cosmos. Once again, you know her, you love her. And then another one that was mentioned more than once for this. Oh my god, look at my hand after this freaking Davina shadow. I need to do a better job wiping this off. Anyway, another one that was commonly mentioned was Sublunar from Terra Moons, which I can definitely see because this kind of set the tone for so many of their releases. If you watch my Terra Moons guide video, you know I have decreed there is an entire Sublunar family. Like, so many of their recently released flaky shades are the same ships as Sublunar, just over different bases. Please note, I do have a stain on my hand. This is from Flirtatious, I believe, so that will play a role on how this shows up. I guess I could do it like a little bit above. As you can see, it's flakier than the Cosmos and doesn't smooth out as nicely. They actually just came out with a shade called Titania, which is like the smooth version of this. And then let me swatch the two Clionadh shades together since I'm running low on battery. So for Clionadh, we have Opulent and Regal. These both have a similar shift in that it's like gold to green to teal, as you can see. Opulent has that like taupey, plummy base, and then Regal has that cool tone indigo base. And common reasons why people said that a shadow of their choice represented their favorite singles brand were sparkly, shifty, shiny, and unique. Next category, a single shadow you grew to like. Terra Moons was the most commonly mentioned brand in this category with 31% of responses. Then Clionadh and Shine by SD. Not a single shadow appeared more than once. This kind of goes back to question 4. In order to change your opinion about a shadow, you have to use it a significant amount of time. So I'm just going to briefly showcase some of these shadows that were featured once. Like I said, none of them were featured more than once. Let's start with Clionadh. So we have Cobblestone. I'm sorry, that's Cathedral. Cathedral, Cobblestone, Queen's Banquet, Signet, Ripple, and Lineage. I personally really enjoy all of these. I only had one from Shine by SD, and that is Torch. This one's not my favorite, and you might be confused because I do have like a significant amount of pan in this, but that's mostly because for a time, My husband got me this bundle from Shine by SD. This was like 2020. And for quite a while, the only multichromes I had in my collection were like the 5 or 6 shades in that collection. So I was using them like crazy. But obviously, since I have brought in like so many different new shades, formulas, textures, finishes, I have opined that this is just not my fave type of formula. I don't know. Something about it is just not something I feel inclined to reach for. It's really pretty and delicate, but I just feel like it doesn't give that like sparkle or twinkle that I like to see in an eyeshadow. I'm going to briefly swatch the Terra Moon shades I have. I'll try to do them small. Enceladus, I know this is the one I mentioned because I was like low-key hating on this at first. And it has become like literally one of my favorite multichromes in my entire collection. Like, this is almost, I almost think this is top 10 for me. And I was not a huge fan at all at first. Like, I was like, I don't even think this is a multichrome. It's not the most shifty, but it has become like such a standout to me. Next, Shattered Stars. Similar vibes to Enceladus. The Cosmos, once again, I'm not going to swatch it again. Starburst. Solar Delirium. One of my faves. And then Titan. Interesting that Solar Delirium and Titan I find to be very similar, as you can see. Just different textures. So interesting that they were both included. The most common reasons why people said they grew to like an eyeshadow were they thought it to be underwhelming initially, thought it didn't suit their taste at first, and didn't understand how to use it at first. The next one was a single shadow you would give to your worst enemy. Terra Moon's was the most mentioned brand, but it was only 16% of responses. Next was ColourPop and Looksy Beauty. Most people, when completing this tag, were specific about shadows within their brand. Some brands that people answered, like all shadows from this brand, were ColourPop, MAC, Menagerie, and Touch of Glam. So I actually didn't have any of the shadows that Cassie listed. I chose... The interesting thing is a lot of people did like kind of goofy or like actually wholesome responses. Jess, my friend Jess on Instagram, like she said the Cosmos because even her worst enemy needs some sparkle in their life. And I'm like, that is so cute. You're the cutest. I don't have... So one of the shades, I know Millie mentioned this, Falling Star from Terra Moons. I don't have that shade, but I have her sister, which is Made on Mars. And I know a lot of people did not like these shades because they're not like high impact. And I will say I did get this sent to me in PR. So if I had paid the full price for it, I would probably be underwhelmed. But like I have it and I do really like it. As you can see, it is like a almost satin finish. But I just think it like melts into your skin and creates such a pretty effect. So I understand why people don't like it, but I do, and I maintain that. And the overwhelming response to this was that it was a poor formula, dull, creasing, not lasting, not user-friendly, patchy, flaky, etc. Next question, a single shadow you'd pay double for. Listen, if you're a brand, get out of here. Do not take this as incentive to raise your prices. Anyway... I have 3 of the shadows that were mentioned more than once. Only one person said they would pay double for Clionadh, which says something about their price tags. Terra Moons had 37% of responses, which is way more than any other brand. Few mentions went to Divina, Looksy, and Pretties for Your Face. So the 3 shades I have that were mentioned more than once are Palladium from Terra Moons. I'm pretty sure I said this. Or I definitely said one of the shades in this like extreme sparkly formula. Just look at it. Ugh! It is absolutely phenomenal, iconic, legendary, the best of the best. And I just know Terra Moons has been on a kick lately, raising their prices, and I'm afraid to hype this up anymore because I don't want them to raise the price because I feel like they could. But don't. Terra Moons, don't do it. Next one, once again, Phoenix. Already swatched this earlier. You know her, you love her. And then finally, Venus in Chains from Terra Moons. This is interesting because this is like an $18 eyeshadow, but I can definitely see why people are hyped about it. I mean, look at it. It's so vibrant, so shifty. It's like almost an entire rainbow. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue. It is so good. You even see a little bit of purple from a harsh angle. Not for me, I will say, like, pretty much the opposite of my vibe. Like, I'm like a sheer, ethereal, sparkly eyeshadow girly. This is like opaque, vibrant, saturated, you know. So not for me at all times, but I do think it's absolutely stunning, and I'm grateful to have it. Terra Moons was the most popular brand by far. The word sparkly was by far the most commonly mentioned in people's justifications. Shiny and feels luxury were the second and third. Okay, last. Single shadow that best represents you. Terra Moons and Clionadh were the most mentioned. They took up 48% of responses. So the two shadows that appeared more than once were, I'm going to swatch them together, Moontide from Terra Moons, another iconic shade. And the next is, let's see if I can even freaking swatch this. This looks terrible, but you see how little product I have left. Revenge from Shine by SD. The 3 common reasons why people chose these shadows in order were shifty, suits my taste, and sparkly. Okay, and then I thought it would be interesting. Cassie also gave me some additional talking points. So there are 4 shadows people said gave them a luxury high-end experience. I'll put them on the screen. The 2 I have are from Clionadh. First is Statue Garden. I know this is kind of a polarizing shade because it's almost a bit of a satiny finish. Not too much unlike the Terra Moon shade I showed you earlier, made on Mars. I personally love it, and I bought this with my own money. And then next is Royal Plum from Clionadh. So these are 2 of the ones that people mentioned gave a luxury high-end experience. Next 2 are ones that people said gave a great value for the money. Put them on the screen. And then the ones I have out of that are Abracadabra from, not Luxie. I read this wrong. I read this as Abracadabra from Glam Shop. This is not this is not in the answer, but here you go. Here's a pretty swatch. And then the next one is Soda Swamp from Divina. Love this shade. Anyway, this is not one of them. Here's Soda Swamp from Divina. Okay, last. These are the shades that people said made them feel good. Love that. The only one I had is Coalescence from Terra Moons. You guys know I'm not a huge fan of these green tones, but Coalescence has a special place in my heart. It's like the green sister to the cosmos, and I think it can be made wearable, like that green tone doesn't show through as much. Anyway, this is not about me. Someone out there said this was a shadow that made them feel good, and I love that for them. That's going to be a wrap. Thank you so much to Cassie for putting together the Single Shadows report. I know you didn't do it for me, but thank you for inviting me to use it as a video. I think this was so interesting and fun to go over, and my inner data nerd was just elated to have this opportunity to share these findings. If you're not following Cassie already, please do. She deserves 18,000 times more followers than she has. She is posting consistent, high-quality content. She's just a lovely, lovely person. I adore her. So although this report has been done, you're more than welcome to still partake in the Single Shadows tag. I'll list all the questions in the description. Might be interesting to come back in like 6 months to a year to redo this tag. Let us know in the comments if that's something you'd want to do. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you, Cassie, once again. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you're not already. I will see you in the next one. Bye!